And I am joined by Nick Siembieda. Thanks for joining me. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Mike. How you doing? Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Now, I want to talk to you about your football career to start, and then we'll get into some Major League Baseball later on. You are a three-year varsity player at Petaluma High School. Were an all-leaguer, all Redwood umpire. Did fantastic. Then you went on to UC Davis, and you suited up for a couple of games. Unfortunately, you had an injury towards the end of the season. Kind of tell me where you're at as far as your football playing career at UC Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. You know, stuff happens, injuries happen, and this one was a permanent one, so it's kind of scary. But I had an injury called morale la vie. It's definitely a rare injury. You don't see it a lot in sports. It's an injury caused by basically your whole leg becomes bruised and kind of bloody looking. It's kind of nasty. I was on crutches for 6 weeks. So it was a really tough time. I didn't get to work out with the guys. I was always sitting on the sideline in crutches, like, dang, this sucks. This isn't what I want to do, kind of thing. I got to rehab. So after the 6 weeks, I was fully healed. Then comes winter ball. That started late December kind of thing. And sadly, my leg just, it was like the second week or something like that during winter ball. And had that same little injury, not the morale of V, but it was the same hit point of where my knee was. And I was in the worst pain, sharp pain all throughout my leg. Luckily, it wasn't bruised or bloody, but came to a conclusion, talked to Coach Hawk, all the head coaches and assistant coaches, and I said, thank you for having me, that kind of stuff. This has been like a joy, definitely a ride, best experience I've ever had. Basically, what I'm trying to do is get fully healthy and see if I can come back during maybe next spring. And if they start, I hear rumors of them actually playing in the spring. You probably heard about that for college football. So if that's the case, maybe I'm fully healed by then and see how it goes. But right now, it's family first for me. Get the degree and then just see how my leg's doing from there because it's still not fully healed.
Now, have you worked this out with the coaching staff ahead of time? Do they know that you're coming back, or are you trying? Are you still on the fence a little bit?
Uh, Currently on the fence. I mean, they don't know. I talked to Coach Hawk a little bit about it. Also a great coach. So
Coach Hawk, by the way, for those who don't know, he used to coach at Sonoma State when they had a football program. Go ahead.
yeah, it's very true. Good man. Basically just trying to see what goes on from there. And I told Coach Hawk, hey, if I'm fully healthy, I'll try to come back maybe and see how it goes. But that's only if my knees and that leg's feeling complete 100%. And if it's not 100%, I'm not just going to risk it because the next one's going to be a permanent one, and I don't want to go through that through the rest of my life. As you know, sports are a big thing for me, but it matters what happens in life after. And a UC Davis degree, you can't beat that. So got to finish no matter what.
What is the what are some of the treatments that you've been undergoing and some of the exercises that you have had to do to try and rehab? And also, um, if God forbid you were to injure it again while playing, what are the effects of having an injury like that, as you have pointed out permanently?
Yeah. The medical staff's great at UC Davis, one of the top ones. So went through a lot of rehab, a lot of leg work, minor squats. Started my first exercise was just walking off like after the crutches and just seeing how I was feeling. And I wasn't 100% right even walking. I've always had a limp and all that stuff. And even right now to this day, I still have a limp to my walk. And that just proves that it's not full 100% yet, which, I'm still rehabbing. I'm going on walks every day with my dad just to try to get the range and motion back. But, a lot of band work with my knee and a lot of lower bodies just to try to get it back to the range and motion 100% so I can just start lightly progressing and doing some running and sprints. That's my goal. That's what I'm trying to get to. And then other than that, I'm still working out like crazy, doing a lot of upper body because of course that doesn't affect anything. But yeah, I mean it's a scary injury because the morale of V was serious. I mean that thing it could have been worse than that. Luckily, it wasn't a torn ACL. The doc's like, you're really lucky that was not a torn ACL. And that scared me to that point. I was like, a lot of people don't even come back after that. And yeah, some of the like effects of what I've heard, it could be if I had one more injury just like this with that Levy one, it could be a permanent one, and I could have issues walking for the rest of my life. He said, always a limp for the rest of my life, and I don't want to deal with that. Especially one day when I have kids and that kind of stuff. I don't want them to see me in that pain, and it's crazy. Sports are important to me, of course, but at the end of the day, it's about your body and how you feel and what's right for you. And I just don't want to see my family look at me like that kind of thing. So.
Is there a way through this rehab, if you rehab it completely, is there a way that that possibility either goes out the window or is significantly less and you can go back to playing college football safely?
If yeah, so basically I'm still doing all the rehab exercises. If I come back to Davis, and I'll probably go back to the medical staff and they'll probably do a couple more x-rays. If they see that I'm fully healed by the time spring comes, I might go out there and give it a shot and just try again and just say, hey, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. But like I said, yeah, it's scary to risk a thing like this, especially a leg. I mean, that like that's how you walk and stuff. That's scary. So, but I mean, yeah, there's definitely a possibility, if not, if that doesn't happen, not playing football, I could just try and be involved around the community and stuff like that and work with Coach Hawk maybe and the guys during practice and just stay involved around the team because they're a great group of guys and they got a big leadership in that group and they're up to succeed. So
Yeah, I went to a few UC Davis football games last year. I remember going to the game at Cal Berkeley. You guys hung in there. There's room for you guys to win that one. Unfortunately, you ended up falling to Cal, and then I also went to the Lehigh game, which you guys won easily, as well as the Cal Poly game, which you won easily as well. The battle for the horseshoe, and
that's
you
right.
guys beat the Cal Poly Mustangs. And you're a big family man. How has their support helped you throughout this whole process? From the injury to having to make this decision and to now possibly wanting to come back.
Yeah, I mean, family's probably the most important thing in my life. My two grandfathers, the most inspirational people by me. Um, my one grandpa played in the NFL, and he's always been that guy on me that says, "Hey, you got to have that meanness when you're playing football and all that stuff." But throughout, even mom, dad, stepdad, stepmom, they've all been here for me. Stepbrother, um, they've all been here through with me through the whole journey. So they're always going to support my decision, whatever happens. But it's crazy to think that I started off getting military nominations, and that's just a huge goal, right? And my dad pushed me. Mom and dad pushed me, but dad was always on my butt with that stuff. He wanted me to follow my grandpa's dreams, who's a Navy aviator for a long time, so captain for 25 years, and they've always been here for me. That was my first accomplishment, getting those nominations from high school, and that honestly led to success from Davis because I was getting recruited by some smaller schools and some D1 schools for football. And then, I reached out to UC Davis, Coach Speckman and Coach Hawk, and said, hey, I'm really interested in coming here. Got nominations to the military academies. This is something I want to do, play at UC Davis. And my whole family supported my decision on that. I mean, leaving the nominations behind was a tough choice for me. But at the end of the day, I knew I would have a great degree at UC Davis, and my family's always been here for me, and they've been pushing me. And look at me now. I mean, I played D1 football. I can say that. And, it's a hard goal. That D1 football, it's not easy. You're waking up at 5 a.m. You're done at, 7 at night. It feels like you have meetings throughout the day. It's an ongoing grind, and I wouldn't have been anywhere without my family with starting from the nominations and D1 football. So
Talk about those military nominations. Obviously, your family, you have a military family background, as do I. I had a lot of family members go through the military. My uncle had a 30-year run in the Army. I know you've had family in the military. What was it like? Tell us about that whole process of how you got the nominations and also meeting with Congressman Huffman, I believe, right?
Thompson.
Thompson. Okay, Congressman Thompson. So kind of tell me about what that process was like.
Yeah, I mean, all those military schools it's an accomplishment if you get those. I mean, you got to be proud. Even just getting the nominations is something big. If you don't get the appointment into the school, it's okay. At least you tried. At least you get nominations because some kids don't even get the nominations to go to the school. So you have to get nominations in order to be an application member to be into the school. that process was difficult. I went out to the Naval Academy. My cousin went to the Naval Academy, so I went out to visit him for a baseball camp when I played baseball back in the day. Was hoping to play D1 baseball from the Naval Academy. That was my dream back then, kind of thing. Or Air Force. Those two were my top choices for baseball if I could play it somewhere.
Yeah, my father was in the Air Force for a long time,
Yes,
so I would have rooted you on.
would have been a good goal. But no, like I said, if you really want to take that step and apply for the Naval Academy or all the academies, Army, all of them, even Merchant Marine, you gotta be a top tier. So you gotta be top of your class. You gotta kill the ACT, SAT, because I promise you that school is. I mean, those are probably ranked one of the hardest schools behind those Ivy Leagues. Even some are harder than the Ivy Leagues, which is scary because they only have like 1,000 kids at each school. So the process was amazing. I was honored by Congressman Thompson to get nominations from his panel too. I had to sit down with a bunch of ex-military people. They asked me questions like, hey, why do you want to do this? Why do you think you're the fit out of these other 6 kids? Why do you think you're the one who deserves these nominations to go to any of these academies? And they let you choose what your first choices were. Of course, I went Navy. My grandpa was in the Navy. I wanted to be a pilot. That would have been awesome, following his footsteps. But like I said, yeah, that process was rough. Going out to the Naval Academy, those are a special group of men. You got to be. That's like I said. There's a lot of kids that like to go to college for reasons, but these 1,000 men and women that go to these schools, I mean, they're the best of the best, and they're going to be set up for a successful life after. And it honestly, I miss doing that stuff. There's sometimes I wish I went and followed the Naval Academy route, but there's nothing I can do about that because I'm at a great school now as well. But like I said, yeah, I knew I would have made my grandpa proud, but I know he'd be proud of me, of course, right now with the D1 football at the Aggies and all that great stuff. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's an accomplishment I can put on my resume, getting nominations because not every person has it. So they'll look good for future life as well. So I take pride in that still.
Now, as I stated before, back to the football aspect, you were a 3-year varsity player, and we actually played together. What was the number one high school football memory you have? Is it a particular game? Is it a play? Is it practice, the locker room experience with the guys? What is your favorite moment from high school? And then give me that from UC Davis so far, football or non-football.
Favorite moment from high school football? I would say for me, playing in the scrimmage, going against Justin Santa, and getting that call out, getting that speech from Rick and Coach McCarthy saying, "Hey, you're coming up to play varsity." That made my day because I was a kid that's never even played football. Basically, in freshman year was my first year. Cole, shout out to Cole Powers. He said, "Hey, I think you'll be a good good person to play football with your size and all that." And I wasn't a big kid, so I shot up a lot. I had to work hard to get where I'm at, especially with the D1 football and all that. But getting that speech just from Coach Chris it made my day. That was something I told my dad. I was like, told dad and mom. I called them right after. I was like, "Hey, I got the call. I'm going up to varsity," and it made me happy. Not a lot of kids do it, as you know. It's hard to, especially with non-experience like any of that. So it felt good. Justin Santa was a big person in my life during that time. He helped me a lot. Without his support, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. Honestly, he was the guy that kicked my butt. He was always on my side. He was always telling me what to do, what plays. He helped me with the whole playbook. We stayed after practice, did extra work. And, I mean, honestly, we would just go in the weights with Coach Stanley. I remember after practices and before workouts sometimes and just did extra stuff with Santa. And it was a great time. He was a big accomplishment in my life. And, I mean, he's probably one of the most important persons that's came through my life with my success as D1 even. So,
Yeah, he's a great guy, and
yeah.
and obviously, we both played with him, and he was a pretty good football player, and we had a lot of success, not just with him and that group, but also with my group, and your group won a lot of games. Let's get to the college part. Favorite memory you had, football wise or non football wise, so far at UC Davis?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think for football, I'd have to say beating my best friend's team, college, Cal Poly Mustangs. He played football for Cal Poly as one of the quarterbacks. My dad and his dad have been best friends for their whole life, and it's the same for Cole and I. Been basically born the same time. He's basically a brother to me. I love that guy, and without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. We both help each other out. I look at him as like a real brother, even though he's just my best friend. But I loved when Cal Poly came to our school to UC Davis. That was probably one of my favorite experiences in my whole life. Seeing my best friend and I side by side, one sideline to the other, saying, "Wow, look what we did today." We were both playing D1 football. That's pretty cool. Our families in the stands. You were there, of course, with Terry and all that. My whole grandparents from Texas came down. I had a cousin from New York come down, Brad, and out. That was just, it was so cool just seeing my best friend and I and all that. I'm glad we took the win because I got to tell you, they fought hard coming back.
They
I knew
did.
they want to give up, but at the end of the day, I'm glad we came out with that horseshoe. I think we deserved it, and I hope we keep it this year too. So we'll see how it goes. But they got a new coach, so they're going to be much improved. I can promise you that. But I know Coach Hawkins, and we got a great recruiting uh, class coming in for Davis, and I know we have pure talent in my class that was there. I think Trent Tompkins will be a big quarterback name for this team. He's very fast, great arm. He led California in all passing yards, so watch out for that kid. He's going to be a stud, and I'm excited to see where he goes. And along with some of my other best friends, I could say on that team. So excited to see what happens.
Yeah, that day against Cal Poly was obviously a really fun day. There were a lot of people that, obviously you had your family there, and obviously I know pretty much everyone that was there for you and Cole, and that was a fun day, and I'm sure for you and Cole that was really just a day you'll never forget and once in a lifetime opportunity.
Very.
Um, and I want to point out that people tend to look down on smaller schools like Davis and Cal Poly and even Sacramento State
Mm-hmm.
when they're being recruited, and they say, well, that's not real D1. They want to go play at Cal or Stanford or USC or go play at Michigan or Georgia. When in reality, college football has become a very regional sport. All the top recruits are going to Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and USC. I mean, those are the top probably five. Include Texas in there as well.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed when I followed Davis and Cal Poly was that there's some really good football in the Big Sky Conference with Davis and Poly and Sacramento State, and you have North Dakota State, I believe,
Very
correct,
good.
and Eastern
Very good.
Washington. There's some good football out there as well, and I know Generic James went to Annalee High School in Sebastopol, and he was really good running back at Annalee. He was a really really short running back, but man was he explosive, and he starred at Sacramento State, and so just something for everyone who listens and wants to be recruited for football. Don't be afraid to either try a smaller Davis or Big Sky conference or go to the JC. I'm sure you had Lenny Wagner on you, wanting you to come play at the JC, and Luke Hackard did that. And, now he's at the University of Indiana playing. So there's good football wherever you go, and especially in California. So don't just look at the top-notch schools.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like my dad says. He always tells me it's D1 football. Not everyone can do it. And at the end of the day, if you go to UC Davis, you can win a Big Sky championship and get a degree from there. That's a win-win. I promise you that. And it's just crazy to think about. We went through that, and at the end of the day, only certain people can do this. It's D1. You're waking up early, so it's a grind, and if it's something you want to do, chase your dreams, but get ready because they recruit you, and they're making you like want to go. They're giving you all this love, but once you're there, I can promise you the hardest thing you're ever going to do in your life, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're one of the only few from this area and the town of Petaluma. Obviously, we had Greg Thomas, who he was a senior when I was a freshman at Petaluma High. He was a kicker. He kind of bounced around early on, but found his niche at Cal as a kicker, and he did a fantastic job. And I surely hope that he gets a shot somewhere at an NFL camp either this year or in the near future because he's got one hell of a leg. So I want to get into baseball we're big baseball fans. We're both big Yankee fans. Now, when it comes to the Bay Area, you're an A's fan, and I'm a Giants fan, but we can get over that. Um, I just want to get your thoughts really quickly on the anticipation of this baseball season. We're less than a week away, right? Next Thursday, we're tipping off. We got Yankees, Nationals, we got Giants, Dodgers. What do you think of MLB finally coming back?
I think the season's going to be amazing. 60 games, every game counts at the end of the day. I mean, you could see a Giants Baltimore World Series, heck, if they start off very hot or something like that. But I've been watching MLB Network, been watching just the inter squad scrimmages, and I can't tell you how excited I am just for baseball to come back. Watching interviews, watching Yes Network, seeing Garrett Cole talking about being a Yankee and Judge and Stanton, all those guys, it just gets me so excited kind of thing. But I'm glad their sports are coming back because all you really see right now on TV is golf, NASCAR, and that kind of stuff. You haven't seen NBA, NFL, of course. They're
And
not
lots
playing
of
it.
politics that, are never a good argument once you get into politics, right?
Yeah, you got to stay away from that. But no, I'm excited. I'm ready to see what the Yanks can do. Big Yankee fan, even my A's. See how they can pull it off in 60 games. It's like it's a playoff push. Every team has a chance at the end of the day. Like me and you talk about every day. We're just happy we get to talk baseball right now and see what happens and predict some stuff. So
Yeah, it's great that we're not talking, labor negotiation talk, which was
of
kind of
course.
the downfall of going through this whole thing because Major League Baseball really embarrassed themselves for 2 months when they weren't even negotiating. They were just sending emails with proposals. And I thought it was absolutely ridiculous that they would air their dirty laundry through the media. And it's so Major League Baseball to do that because they have a commissioner who's incompetent and doesn't know what he's doing. He botched the Houston Astros investigation. He botched the beginning of this season. Um, what are your thoughts basically on how this all went down, in particular Commissioner Rob Manfred, who we'll get to the Astros scandal a little later on?
No, yeah, definitely. I think it was a little bit weird. They couldn't come to agreement, which kind of sucks on any of this. Players wanted more, but Rob wouldn't offer it to the teams. Owners wanted to not pay their guys like that, and that's something that you don't want to see because sports is something that people should enjoy. And it just sucks to see like arguments go around when it's just a game that we love to watch. You shouldn't be arguing about that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm happy they came with an agreement, on the 60 game proposal and all that because players are getting what they want, owners are getting what they want kind of right now, and they're all just agreeing to one thing at a time. And it's just at the end of the day, like I said, I'm just glad to see them playing again. Yeah, there's a lot of politics and that kind of stuff, whether the players want more money, the owners don't want to pay them, of course. But like I said, at the end of the day, this is something that's happening, and I'm just glad to see a season.
Yeah, obviously we have the Yankees, Nationals, and Giants, Dodgers on the 23rd, and then your A's open up against the Angels on the 24th. Let's kind of go team by team here. Yankees, what do you think? What do you expect?
Yeah, from the Bombers. Very exciting, a healthy Giancarlo Stanton, healthy Aaron Judge, and Force getting DJ LeMahieu back just makes them, I mean, probably one of the most scariest teams behind the Dodgers, like they're saying. I think they're just as competitive as the Dodgers, honestly. I think it's hard to pick 1 and 2 right there. They're the two best teams, but expecting a lot. I think their lineup 1 through 9 for the Yanks can really do some work. DJ is going to be the leadoff. It's looking like, you could even have 9 hitter could be like Tyro Estrada, who's just killing summer camp right now. He had another home run today. He has 3 home runs for the camp so far, the most out of any player. I mean, he's beaten Judge and Stanton, which shocks the world, and some other guys. So no name player you really know about is, and he's providing for that lineup, which is something that you look for, especially in this upcoming season. Looking for Garrett Cole to pitch the way Garrett Cole's been pitching his last couple of years. He's a Cy Young candidate every year almost, probably behind DeGrom, who's just been a stud. But I look forward looking forward for that like pitching rotation. 1 through 5, they're pretty dominant. If you get Tanaka back, of course, and Paxton's coming back. Paxton looks sharp kind of so far during the camp, if we get another lefty like that. And we're looking for Hap to do something. He's a guy that's on or off. Hopefully he can have a good year, though, this year for us. And it's good to see Jordan Montgomery coming back, big, like 6'6" lefty, pretty nasty breaking ball. That's his specialty. He goes with the breaking ball over fastballs half the time, but I'm just excited to see what this lineup can do. I'm looking forward to the machine doing some damage as that leadoff hitter, and then Judge, and then Stan, that 1 through 3. Like I said, those are potential all MVPs. One's an ex MVP. Judge is right there. He's an ex Rookie of the Year. Has the home, breaking records, crazy stuff. And I mean, pitchers they don't like facing those guys. I can tell you that. Scherzer is dominant, but he's gonna have some nerves in his whole system when he's seeing those Yankees at the plate.
Yeah, I can't wait. We're filming this on July 17th on Friday. It's going to be released a little later on than that, but we have Yankees and Mets on the S Network tomorrow, which is Saturday, July 18th at 4 o'clock. I've never been so excited to watch an exhibition game in my entire life, and I'm going to watch that game full. I'm going to watch the game on Sunday against the Mets fully. I'm going to watch the game against the Phillies fully, and I'm also going to watch those 2 Giants A's games that are happening Monday and Tuesday. One of them will be at Oracle Park in San Francisco. The other will be at the Oakland Coliseum in Oakland, so that should be a lot of fun. I'm so excited about the Yankees season. This is a team that is coming off heartbreak, and then they learn of this Astros cheating scandal, and they've had heartbreak 2 of the last 3 seasons. And I heard Aaron Boone today that they're hoping to go 2 or 3 times in the rotation without having to use Tanaka, because they have some off days integrated where they can only use 4 pitchers, which are Cole, Paxton, Happ, and Montgomery. So it'll be interesting to see how they maneuver it. But I want to get your thoughts on the new rules, some of the new rules that are coming into place. Obviously, universal DH. What do you think?
I like it a lot. I think it makes both teams, like I said, even 4. And I think every lineup has potential to do some damage with the DH, because you're using that extra great hitter that you could use as a DH on any team. I think it's a smart rule. We'll see how it goes this year, and if it's a rule that they want to continue on in the NL for the upcoming future. That's the one thing I always say. The NL always has the ability to hit with the pitcher, and is that the right way to play baseball? Should the AL do it? It's if they both go DH, it would definitely change the game. I think I kind of like how the NL does no DH and they only hit with the pitcher. I think it's a little, more creative than the AL. But I look at the AL and I think, wow, the AL has great pitching from Garrett Cole now, from Justin Verlander, all those guys. They got all those great pitchers, and it kind of breaks even. It's like half and half. But I'm happy to see what they do with the NL. If the NL just comes out and rakes AL teams now, you could see definitely disadvantages for it, or some advantages, but of course for the NL team. But then the AL's team will hate it. So we'll just see how it goes, kind of, and see from there.
Now, in extra innings, this rule will only be in place for the regular season, and the postseason will go back to the regular extra innings rule. But in the regular season, there will be a runner on second base with no outs to start the inning. So we're tied 3-3. After 9, we're going to start with a runner on second, and it'll be the last batted out that is the runner at second base. What do you think of that? And what would you do if you were coaching a team and you're tied in the game, you got a runner on second? What are you doing as a strategy? Are you trying to bunt them over? Are you trying to let your hitters swing? Is there a difference between home versus away? Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting role, and I'm glad it's only the regular season. And I think we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely not a fan of it. It's not my favorite. Like I said, I talked to you about this earlier. I think teams definitely have an advantage with that second runner on base, and it could be any team. It could be Baltimore, one of those teams beating the Yankees just from having a second, like a advanced runner in that scoring position.
Well, both teams will have it, so it's not just going to be one.
But no, I think we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. It's going to make games go quicker. I know players don't want to be out there all day, of course, with all this COVID going around. So it definitely makes the games go faster. I don't want to see it next year. I think, like you even agreed with this, you don't want to see it next year because baseball is one of those games you got to finish through. There's no point of putting someone else on. I'll stay a 20 inning game if I have to. I know you would too. Do the same thing.
I've been to a couple of those marathons.
I've been to long ones.
I went to an 18 inning game, Mariano Rivera's last game in Oakland, 2013. It was a weekday afternoon game, and we got there I think at 10 o'clock for a 12:30 game, and the game didn't get over till 5:30. So it was fun. Unfortunately, Rivera blew it. Of all people, Mariano Rivera allows the walk off, and then I think the same year, maybe like a month later, I went to a Giants Mets game, and that was a weeknight game, and that went 16 innings, and the Mets beat the Giants. So the New York team that I wanted to win lost, and the New York team I wanted to lose won. It was great baseball, but both the teams that I were rooting for lost. And last year I went to I think a 13 or 14 inning game. It was the Giants and the Braves. So it was. I like baseball. I think it's good for this year. But yeah, it should be interesting. I'm interested to see what different strategies are put in place. You have a lot of younger managers, newer managers. You don't have a lot of managers who are kind of old car guys that have been around. You have Dusty Baker, the Houston Astros, the cheating Houston Astros. You have Bob Melvin, who's been around for a long time with the Athletics. So you have Joe Madden with the Angels. So it should be interesting. Let's shift to the National League. I'll start with my San Francisco Giants just for a little bit. I know you enjoy hating on them very much.
Especially when we talk about them. You know me. We like to give each other some stuff, so we'll go at it.
It's okay. Everybody likes a winner. The Giants do have 3 titles in the last decade, so.
Needs to have more still.
Yeah. No, but it should be interesting. Gabe Kapler has big shoes to fill, and, replacing a guy like Bruce Bochy, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, won 3 titles, went to 4 World Series, has over 2,000 wins. And I think his job is even tougher with this really just whack of a season that we're all about to go into. Look out for some young guys for the Giants. Alex Dickerson, he's kind of been a guy that's hurt a lot. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. You have Buster Posey, who opted out, so you're not even going to see him. Will we see Joey Bart? The Giants are indicating likely not. You have guys like Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford, who every year we hear it's going to be their breakout year, and it never happens. So I'll believe it when I see it. You have Evan Longoria. He's on the downturn of his career. Johnny Cueto, Jeff Samardzija. The Giants just named Cueto their opening day starter. They're on the downturn of their career. I don't know what you're going to get out of them. It seems like the Giants are doing everything they can to rebuild, but while also trying to, have that small hope of competing like they had last season when they went, I believe, 37-23 in a 60-game stretch between mid-June and mid-August. So we'll see what happens with the Giants. The big thing about Oracle Park is that the bullpens are now out of the field of play, or they're now in center field, which means the fences have moved in. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, how many more home runs are hit in that area that used to be out. Barry Bonds probably lost at least 20 home runs from that triples alley and center field part, and I'm sure many other players have. So we'll see how that all plays out, and it'll be interesting to look at the stats. Obviously, 30 games at Oracle Park are not going to give us a big enough sample size, but after next year, we'll really see what the effect is about that. Let's move across the Bay Bridge to the Oakland Athletics in the East Bay. You're the A's fan. Tell me what to expect.
I expect a lot from these guys. I think they have some fire in their step, especially with the Astros scandal that happened. I think every time they're going to play them, they're going to have some meanness to them, every player, even the pitchers, bullpen, all of them. I'm very excited. I think 1 through 9, their whole lineup has great potential. Starting off with Marcus Semien, he was an MVP candidate. Of course, he didn't win, but hey, I mean, he had a great year last year, and you look at that whole lineup, and I see some breakout players that will have good years. I see Matt Chapman, who will probably have a great year again. Olsen will hit some couple of home runs, but I think Chris Davis is a key part of this lineup. I still think he is probably one of the best hitters in this lineup and has potential to be one of the best hitters. He's been the most consistent throughout the couple of years in Oakland, hitting 40+, hitting 247 every year, like for the last 3 years. I mean, you've seen that. Like, no player's really done that, hit 247 in 3 years consistently.
Kills the Giants.
He does kill the Giants. I really like Crush. I think he's got potential to hit a couple home runs this year for this team. Struggled last year, struck out a lot. Him, Judge, and Chris, I mean, they strike out a ton, but they'll hit you a ton of home runs. That's always the thing. But I think he'll have a great year this year. I think they added Tony Kemp. I think that's a great pickup from the Astros. He has great speed, great glove, and I think he's a veteran leadership player for this team. That would be a great potential candidate for that second runner on base in extra innings with his wheels, and then Marcus Semien being the next hitter. Bob Melvin will definitely have a strategic way with that, with his speed at second, I think, with Semien up at the plate. I like their pitching staff 1 through 5. I think they all have great potential. Mike Fiers he's decent. He'll get you some wins. His ERA will probably be a little high, but he's still a good pitcher. He's clutch in the moment. You've seen it. He's throwing a couple no hitters. So guy I like Sean Manaea a lot, and Frankie Montas. They're probably my favorites. Montas coming off after the PED suspension. I'm excited to see how he does. He's been a great pitcher even before the PED suspension. So I'm excited to see how he does this year. He's a big guy. He throws pretty hard, great command. And Jesus Luzardo is another guy, a lefty, kind of smaller, but has great bite to his pitches. I think he'll probably be the fourth pitcher in that rotation. He played last year. He got called up. He did some bullpen work, started a couple games, and he looked pretty sharp. He's still young, got potential. And then we see a guy like Chris Bassett, who's decent. He's had a great ERA last year. I mean, he was one of the lowest ones on that team. He's been pretty consistent, I would say, ever since he's been called up. I think he's just a great fit for the A's more because it's not a big, atmosphere team like the Yankees are one of those where those pitchers can, be in that atmosphere. I think Oakland's a great fit for all 5 of these guys. Some are pretty young. Fiers is the oldest. The other guys are young, so they got time to develop. Other than that, Ramon Laureano is a great outfielder. I would put him as one of the best gloves, best arms in the game. Acuna and him probably have probably the top arms in the game, along with Judge. And overall, I think, like I said, 1 through 9, they got a great catching prospect in Sean Murphy. I'm excited to see what he does. You've heard about him a couple times, probably in the minor league camps. He's a lot of talk. We haven't seen a lot from him yet, but he is a big potential name, like a Joey Bart. I mean, even though Sean's played in the MLB, he's still got that. I'm still excited to see what he can do for this team. I heard he has a great arm. Haven't seen him hit really great yet ever since he's gotten called up, but he's a great defensive catcher overall. I'm excited to see what this team does.
I'm gonna ask you what you think the biggest weakness of the A's is, but before I do, I kind of want to give what I think the Yankees' biggest weakness is that even though they added Garrett Cole, it's still the starting pitching. You can't have Garrett Cole in a playoff series go out there and pitch 5 times, right? You need other guys to step up. And we saw that at times. You had James Paxton show up in Game 5 of the American League Championship Series and got that series back to Houston. Masahiro Tanaka usually steps up in the postseason, but you can't rely on those 2 guys. You're going to have an unsung hero like a J Happ or Jordan Montgomery. So if I'm going to point out one weakness for the Yankees, it is their starting pitching. I don't think it's a huge weakness now they've added Garrett Cole, but I do believe that is one of the reasons that they have not been able to get over the hump. Nonetheless, that they've had to deal with the cheating Astros team 3 of the last 5 years. But I want to ask you, and we'll get to the Astros here in a second, but I do want to ask you, what do you think the A's biggest weakness is going into the 60-game sprint?
Yeah, that's hard because I look at this team and I think their lineup is just great, I mean, it's not spectacular, but they definitely have consistent hitters, like I've been saying. They're going to give you good pop. They're going to hit you home runs. I'd say their lineup is not their issue. Their starters, I think they got potential to be pretty decent, though. I look at them and I think 1 through 5, and Montas has a great year, and that Luzardo kid comes up and pitches great. I think there is no really weakness for this team. I would say maybe their bullpen more. If the A's bats can provide them runs, and they should be fine. You shouldn't have to worry about that. That's the only issue. I think Liam Hendricks is a great closer. I think A.J. Puck will be a great reliever one day, and he's got high potential. They added Jake Diekman, who's not horrible. He's a lefty arm. So it's kind of hard to say with the A's. I mean, I don't know what you think their weakness is, but I look at their lineup and I think 1 through 9, they got a good lineup that's going to score you runs. I think their pitching's not horrible. Like they don't have 1 through 5. I mean, I'd take that pitching lineup any day. That's my opinion. I don't know what you think their weakness is, but I think they have the lineup and the starters to get them what they need. More bullpen weakness for me.
Yeah, I don't know the A's that much, so I can't really give you a really confident answer about what their biggest weakness is, other than the fact that whenever they get into an elimination game scenario, they haven't won. I think since Billy Beane took over, I think they're 0-7 in elimination games. That includes a couple of wild card games. They lost to the Yankees in 18. They lost to the Rays at home in 19. They had 2 Game 5s against the Detroit Tigers in 2012 and 2013 at home, lost them both. They had a wild card game in Kansas City where they had a 7-3 lead, and John Lester on the mound. They lost that game, and they had a couple series in the early 2000s where they had 2-0 leads. I think one against the Yankees and one against the Red Sox, and lost them both. So, other than that, I can't really give you a really strong answer on what their weakness is, just because I don't follow them enough. But for the A's to get the belief from everyone else that they can actually do something special, they have to win an elimination game, home or road.
Yep.
Because you have to get that monkey off your back, and especially if you're a guy like Billy Beane who was trying to really change the game with that whole Moneyball aspect. And if he can win a World Series, it'd be very, very impressive because he was the pioneer of that whole Moneyball era. Finally, I want to close with something we're both very passionate about: the cheating Houston Astros. Obviously, the Astros reside in the same division as the Oakland Athletics. They resided in the ALCS, where they lost to our beloved Yankees, or where they beat our beloved Yankees twice, once in 7 games in 2017, and last year in 6 games when Jose Altuve knew what pitch was coming from Aroldis Chapman, hit the walk-off home run to win the pennant. When you first heard about the Astros cheating scandal, what was your reaction?
I look at sports throughout the whole history I've been alive, or even since my dad and all those people have been alive, and I look at cheating scandals before. And yes, teams have cheated there. And I mean, Tom Brady, they say, had deflated footballs and all that stuff. There's been cheating here and there, but I would say this scandal has probably been the worst cheating scandal I've ever seen since my lifetime. And I would say, I asked my dad about the same question what you said, and he said, yes, I agree. This is probably the worst thing. They stole a ring from the Yankees. And they stole that whole cheat, and the Dodgers. I was talking to you about this and my dad actually, and Aroldis Chapman's probably one of the best closers in the game, right? He's a lefty. No one wants to face this guy. I've never seen a hitter look so confident at that plate, that at bat. He's taking the balls from Chapman and all that stuff, and all these hitters, they look so comfortable against Aroldis Chapman who throws 100, and he topped out with the fastest pitch in MLB history. And then I see him just come, Altuve's getting a buzz. Hey, yeah, fastballs come from Chapman. I haven't seen like a hitter against Chapman just feel that comfortable and knowing what pitch is coming. I mean, you haven't seen a lot of home runs off Chapman. Rafael Devers is probably the only guy who we see rakes Chapman. And they haven't cheated. The Astros cheat. And they took everything away from the Dodgers and Yankees, and I feel horrible for the Dodgers and Yankees, and that's why I'd love to see a World Series between those two teams because they both deserve to be there, not those guys at all.
I made this comparison on an earlier show that when the game in 2017, when the games were played on an even playing field, the Yankees won 8-1 in Game 3, 6-4 in Game 4, and 5-0 in Game 5. They boat raced the Astros on an even playing field. And even when the Astros were cheating at home, they won. The first 2 games were 2-1 games. They're both 1-run games. I think Game 6 was a 3-1 game, and then Game 7 was like 4-1. So it's not like they were beating the brakes off even when they were cheating. I think it was clear to me that the Yankees were the better team, and they were destined to win that World Series. And the Dodgers had a great team as well, but that Yankee team it was something special.
They were ready.
You know, you had that American League Division Series against Cleveland. They lose game one. You know, they lost, I think, 5-0. But then you had that game two where they were up 8-3, and they blow that lead, and they end up losing it in the bottom of the ninth. And then they go back home down 2-0. They win that series, right? You win 1-0 in game three. You beat the brakes off them in game four, and then you come back to Cleveland and you beat them in game five. When that happened, I thought that this team was for real and they were going to go and they were going to beat the Astros. But to have that taken away from them was just absolutely incredulous to me. And the fact that they barely beat the Dodgers when they were cheating shows, how good of a team were they?
Yeah.
Even when they were cheating, I mean, anybody's going to be a good team when you know what pitch is coming. How good of a team were they, when they were cheating? They lost in 18 to the Red Sox in the ALCS, but that Red Sox team was an all-time team.
Yeah.
They won 108 games or something like that. You knew that team was going to win the World Series, and they were doing some cheating of their own, but it wasn't as egregious, nowhere near egregious to what the Astros did. Then you had the Astros cheating again in 2019. Now, allegedly, this was never confirmed by Major League Baseball, but A.J. Hinch's response when he was asked on a TV interview, I think says it all.
Yeah.
When he mentions the commissioner's report and, cannot answer the question, which was worded something to the effect of, can you assure us that no buzzers were used in 2019? And he says, oh, well, the commissioner's report did a great investigation on us, and I'd prefer you to that. That's not very convincing. So I think the Astros were cheating in 2019, and yet they still lost the World Series. So how good of a team were they if they weren't cheating? We'll never know. But I don't think that they would have been in the World Series 2 of the past 3 years. And I know you can attest to the frustration that I felt as a Yankee fan. But you A's fans, you must feel it as well, because the A's have been very good the past 2 seasons and have really challenged the Astros for the division. And you've been stuck in 2 wildcard games and have lost both, where you had a good chance to win the division and not even had to play that wildcard game.
No, yeah, that's one thing. That pisses me off a lot. The A's, being an A's fan, they've always been the team, the sleeping team or the scrappy team. They always win games. But then when I look at when they play the Astros, that the Astros always have an advantage on the A's. The A's always come with some fight in there and there, but I look at that time, and every time the A's get second in that division, I'm like, dude, the Astros even deserve that division? I mean, being in an AL West team, knowing that that team is – the Astros are cheating on, say, the Texas Rangers or any team in that division, knowing that they're just stealing right there, like knowing what pitches come in against the A's players, I mean, that's just something that you hate to see, especially as an A's fan. It's like, what's the purpose of it? That's not baseball.
Well, the purpose is to win and steal signs.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like,
but they have no remorse.
Yeah, it's something I hated seeing it. I love being an A's fan. I'm a faithful one. I definitely have a group of friends. My dad even is. Cole and Trav, they're all A's fans. So it's something that you just really hate to see, and especially we've been through a lot of stuff. We've traded Josh Donaldson, Cespedes, all those guys. You hate seeing that. And then this is just something new that the Astros are cheating off us every game, and they're winning every game. You see, just because they know what pitch is coming, they'll score you 10 runs. Verlander will throw a shutout. That's all they need. And they have a great pitching staff. I mean, maybe that's why they win their games. They probably have one of the top pitching staffs in all of MLB. So, but like I said, all it takes is just a couple runs here and there for the Astros, and they'll just shut you out with Garrett Cole last year and Verlander. That's all they needed.
Yeah, and I had a little sympathy for A's fans, because now with Seth Brown coming into the mix in the A's and myself being a chartered Brownie Barker with my uncle John Marr, which you can listen to that episode as well if you'd like. I would have loved to see the A's win the division. When they were winning in the early 2000s, I remember I was in 6th, 7th grade, and it was fun to see someone other than the Giants winning. The Giants were still winning at that point, but I would have loved to see. And I remember this so, um, diligently when I was watching the 2014 wildcard game with the A's and Royals, and the Giants were also in the wildcard game. They were playing the Mets, I believe, in New York. And I
Mhm.
said, watch out. Whoever wins the wildcard game, these wildcard games, is going to get into the World Series, because I didn't see a really true favorite in either side. And I was hoping, after Brandon Moss hit those 2 home runs, I'm thinking we're gonna have an A's Giants World Series.
I remember.
It's gonna happen again, and hopefully there's not gonna be an earthquake this time. Um, but yeah, it was sad, and I hope the A's. I actually picked the A's to win the division in my earlier previous
Mhm.
um, predictions episode. So go ahead and listen to that. I picked the A's to win the division. I didn't pick the Giants to win the division because no one's beating the
I don't
Dodgers.
know. Yeah,
But in a season like this, you never know.
exactly.
The Giants may not be the ones, but you could have a random team like the Padres or something who starts
They're
15-3,
sneaky.
or you have the Rockies or the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks, Adam Ass and Bumgarner. So we'll see what happens. All right, give me your World Series prediction before we go. World Series. Who do you got? Who's winning? How many games? MVP.
And MVP. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough. Being a Yankee fan, I'm gonna give them. Of course, I got to go with the Yanks. I think they'll be in the World Series, and I got them going against the Dodgers. I think it's gonna be a great World Series. I think the Yankees can do it in 7. I think it will come down to how clutch those Yankee hitters are during the whole playoffs, how they do in the World Series with the runners on situations. If Judge has a great year, Stanton has a great time in the playoffs, and I look at Gleyber Torres. He's one of the clutchest hitters probably on this planet. I look at, and I think they can win up to Game 7. I think Judge probably should be the MVP. I'm hoping. I think he'll have a great series in LA. Went to Fresno State. Will have. I mean, who knows? They could have some family there. I don't know. You've seen rules, or you've seen some comments saying like, "Oh, well, we might could get some fans in." Blah blah blah. If it's only family, it'd be kind of cool to see like Judge's family come down to LA and then playing in Dodger Stadium, something like that, and that'll give them a little boost. But I got Yankees in 7 with the score 2-1, and I got Garrett Cole going 8 innings, and the Chapman will close the door and striking out Mookie Betts. That's my prediction, and the Yankees have 28 rings. They'll start spreading the news with Sinatra.
I love that. I love that song. And who's your MVP? I didn't get your MVP, by the way.
I said Judge. I said Judge
Judge.
because if it's in California and they let some family rule in of like, oh, your family can only come to the game, I think it will help give him a little more confidence. He went to Fresno and he's from that area kind of stuff. So we'll see how that goes.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Yankees too. Obviously, we're very biased in
Yeah.
this interview, but it's okay. The Yankees. It's not like we're Kansas City Royal fans and we're picking them to win the World Series. It'll be a legitimate prediction. I also, in my earlier episode, picked the Yankees and Dodgers and the Yankees to win in 7, but I could also see the Chicago Cubs winning the World Series. I think, or not winning the World Series, but getting to the World Series. I think they're going to be rejuvenated under new manager David Ross, and they still have a really, really good team. So don't sleep on the Chicago Cubs. But I'm going to pick the Yankees to win in 7. I think that this is the best pitching the Yankees have had since 2009 when they had CC Sabathia and AJ Burnett. And look what happened. They won the World Series. They had CC Sabathia as their stopper. Now they have Garrett Cole. I think that this Game 7 is going to be sort of like a mismatch. The Dodgers could have one of their aces going, whether it's a Walker Buehler or a Clayton Kershaw. I think it's going to end up being like the Yankees have an opener like Chad Green, and they're going to have their bullpen try and get them through 4 or 5 innings, and then the Yankees will grab a lead 2-1, and then Garrett Cole comes walking out of the bullpen and shoves it on him for the last 3 or 4 innings or so.
Awesome.
And I'm going to pick Garrett Cole as my 2020 World Series MVP. The Yankees win. Who do you think's where's Game 7 going to be? Is it going to be in LA or New York? I think it's going to be in LA because I think the Dodgers will have a better record overall.
I agree with that. I think, yes, I'm going to go with LA too. LA definitely has a lighter schedule. They ain't playing so many crazy teams. They got the Giants a lot. No offense. The
Right.
Dodgers. Have a great
Well, in the Western region
yeah,
generally, I mean, the Astros are still very good. The
yeah,
A's are very good, but in their
middle.
own division, they have a lot of middle tier teams. I think all the other teams in their division are really kind of middle to lower tier teams. I think the Diamondbacks, Rockies, those are kind of middle tier teams, and then you have the Padres and the Giants. Still in the middle tier, but at the lower end. So, and then of course you have the Mariners and
Still,
the Rangers in the AL West. So it should be interesting to see kind of how that goes. And the Yankees got to play, the Rays 10 times. They
got
got to
the
play the Red Sox
Braves,
10 times. They have
Nationals.
to play the Braves,
Yeah.
Nationals, Phillies,
Tough
Mets.
teams. Yep.
So it's going to be tough. And I'm very intrigued to see what happens. But Nick, I just want to thank you for taking some time. We actually spent a lot of time on this interview now looking at the clock, but we could talk baseball and sports for 24 hours. And that's what's great. We'll finally have it back. Opening day, July 23rd, Yankees Nationals, 4 o'clock from Washington, D.C. I can't wait for it. We'll have the NBA the following week with the Lakers and the Clippers and all the storylines in the NBA, and crossing our fingers for some NFL football in the fall, and then hopefully college football in the spring. So hopefully things are going on up in the sports world. Nick, thanks again for joining me, and hope you have a good time, and hopefully your rehab goes well, and hope to see you back on the football field safely in the near future.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mike, so much. It was great talking baseball. We love doing it. So
Great.
I'll see you
Thanks, Nick.
soon.